Okay, hello, good evening, everyone. Hi. My name is Brad Gottschall. I am the Lower Paxton Township Manager. In brief fashion, I do this every evening. I give a brief summary of the night's meeting, particularly for the benefit of those watching at home on television. So I will do that quickly here as well. After approving of previous meeting minutes and receiving various comments and reports, under new business, the board will authorize a payment through task order number 2020-01 to Capital Region Water for the PennDOT Municipal Partnership on the Joint Pollution Reduction Plan project. Next, the board will consider ordinance 20-06, allowing for the elimination of the Beaver Creek sewer permitting allocation procedure. After this, the board will take action on change order number 1 with Rogel Incorporated, reconciling project quantities and contract terms for the emergency repairs to wastewater system contract of 2018. Lastly, under new business, the board will take action on a final land development plan for Blue Ridge Village lot number 3 and also improvement guarantees. And finally, before adjourning, the board will move to pay township and authority bills. And at this point, all the members of the board are seated and prepared to conduct business. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gottschall. I'd like to call this meeting of the Lower Paxton Board of Supervisors to order. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand, and Supervisor Zumas will lead us in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You're welcome. We don't have minutes. I don't see that on the pledge, and then we go directly to public comment. No minutes to approve this evening? No. Okay. Okay, with that, we will go directly to public comment, though, since I assume that's why everybody is here. Just a couple of things. First of all, we always announce that prior to this meeting, the Board of Supervisors did meet in executive session to receive information from staff, and we will do so again following this meeting. What we do with public comment is the time set aside for public comment is for any item that is not on the agenda tonight. If you are here and you are here because you have an interest in an item that is on the agenda, we will provide for public comment at the time we discuss that matter. So public comment period would be for those items not on the agenda this evening. We do ask, especially with a number of people who have expressed an interest in speaking this evening, our rule is to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. We would also appreciate if folks are making a point that we don't get overly redundant with it, and hopefully that will allow us to receive more information in the time available. So with that, we are open for public comment, and what we would ask you to do is to please come to the podium. When you do, give us your name and address, and then address the board from there so that everyone can hear you and our vast television audience can see you as well. So with that, who would like to go first? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
My name is Jack Doherty. My address is 2407 Abbey Lane. Can everybody hear me okay with the mask?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I assume. Everybody hear Jack? Okay.
I'm here tonight on behalf of the Friendship Center Operating Board to provide the supervisors with a summary of our meeting on June 29th. Present for that meeting were about 25 members of the center and interested parties, including representatives from the Senior Center and LPAC. Also in attendance was Township Manager Brad Gottschall. And shortly before the meeting, we were provided with an updated financial statement for the Friendship Center for the last 4 years. As you might expect, the main topic of conversation was the continued closure of the Friendship Center. There were concerns raised by members of our board that we were not alerted to the possibility of the Friendship Center not reopening once Dauphin County entered into the green phase. We were not permitted to meet during the pandemic. However, it was our understanding that staff was directed to prepare a reopening plan, which was to be presented to the supervisors. Ms. Scott did provide us with a detailed reopening plan, taking into consideration the occupancy and mitigation requirements issued by the governor. Board members were blindsided by the decision not to reopen based on the communications that we had had thus far. Prior to receiving public comment, we learned for the first time that Mr. Gottschall that the township was in negotiations with the Y to enter into some type of partnership agreement to reduce the township's financial responsibility regarding the center. A number of questions were raised by our board members regarding a potential partnership, but Mr. Gottschall advised us that he was not able to elaborate on potential structure due to ongoing negotiations. During public comment, everyone who spoke was concerned with the fact that the Friendship Center had not reopened, and that the different messages conveyed to members, staff, and the media made it unclear as to whether the Friendship Center would ever open again. Some of the concerns from attendees included how the closure is going to impact our senior population. Concerns were raised that the Friendship Center is their only source of exercise and social interaction. Comments were made that most seniors don't use the outdoor parks, especially in the hot summer months, and seniors will be unable to enjoy the physical and mental health benefits the Friendship Center provides. Concerns were raised about whether memberships and staff could be maintained during a period of closure. Many members are already seeking alternatives, and it may be difficult, if not impossible, to get that revenue back when those members leave. In addition, many members are loyal to their instructors, and if their instructors leave, the members will go with them. Members of LPAC raised concerns that the closure has caused their club great uncertainty for the upcoming season in the fall, and that this has caused some of their members to leave for other clubs. Members raised concerns that as a public service to the residents of Lower Paxton, the supervisors had not received any feedback yet from residents as to what the financial tolerance was for subsidizing the operation costs of the Friendship Center. The issue of the Friendship Center's finances came up, and it was discussed that the financial report provided to us to the township showed an average operating deficit of $279,000 for the last 4 years, which included over $300,000 in depreciation costs. Board members commented that it's been a struggle to get accurate financial information from the township over the years, and since our meeting, our confusion has increased based on the comments of Mr. Henry to ABC 27 that the Friendship Center needs more than $700,000 a year to operate. This is the first time that we've heard that number. Finally, there were concerns raised about a partnership with the Y and what it would look like. Board members were concerned that the Friendship Center is more than a fitness center, it's a community center. It's the place where township gathers to hold large community events. It's a place where citizens get together and interact. Concerns were raised that the Y would have to maintain an ability to utilize the facility to celebrate Lower Paxton events and to be used for the benefit of the Lower Paxton Township community. Also mentioned was a concern that any operational structure would need to include some type of Lower Paxton presence on any type of operating board to ensure that the Friendship Center maintains its focus on supporting Lower Paxton residents and maintaining the senior center. There was also discussion about whether the Y could provide the opportunity for lower income residents and children to utilize the center, which we currently have through our financial aid program. Also discussed was the fact that some insurance memberships are not currently accepted at the Y downtown, and since insurance memberships are our fastest growing memberships, that could substantially impact revenue. And finally, what additional costs will be incurred, if any, to the Parks and Rec program, since staff in Parks and Rec work out of the Friendship Center and many events are coordinated through the Friendship Center. In closing, the operating board recognizes the significant difficult circumstances that the township is in due to the pandemic and the tough calls that need to be made. And I certainly don't relish the requirement that you have to make those tough calls. However, we believe continuing to keep the Friendship Center closed is going to have long-term economic impacts, whether a partnership is entered into with a Y or not. And if members leave the facility, it's going to make it less desirable for the Y if you are trying to negotiate something. Lower Paxton is a great place to live. It's a great place to raise a family. It has a great quality of life, and we think the Friendship Center is a large part of that equation. And we would ask that you take those things into consideration in making decisions regarding its future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening. My name is Patty McCool. I live at 803 Charrington Drive. I've been a member of the Friendship Center for 18 years and the Senior Center for 4 years. My comments also obviously are about the Friendship Center. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the supervisors about the Friendship Community Center. We are concerned about the future of the center and the role it may or may not play in our community going forward. Our group is comprised of a number of people who were born and raised in Lower Paxton Township, as well as people who have moved here from elsewhere in the state. We are all ages, backgrounds, and have many different experiences in life. But the common thread for all of us is that we belong to the Friendship Community Center. And through that membership, we have developed very strong friendships and developed a sense of community pride, which is what the center was designed to do. We have supported each other through the good times and bad, celebrating birthdays, holidays, retirements, weddings, birth, and many other major life events, which is part of that friendship. We have helped each other manage the hard times that come through illness, injury, and death of loved ones. We act as a referral system to local community businesses and resources. If somebody needed a plumber, an electrician, a restoration company, painters, contractors, doctors, dentists, lawyers, the group always had recommendations of where to go in our community to support the local businesses, not some big box stores. When the center had to close, as did most everything during the early days of the pandemic, several of us started walking so we would not lose the physical and emotional benefits we have received through our membership at the center. As we walked among the neighborhoods surrounding the center, we noticed many things. In the beginning, we saw the Lower Paxton Township Police patrolling the area, making sure of the safety of the citizens. And as a thank you for their hard work, we made cookies for them one day and delivered to them on our walk. Time passed, and it was decided that the schools would not reopen this year. And we soon noticed signs popping up in the yards, congratulating the graduate of the house. But unless somebody drove or walked down that street, the hard work of that young man or woman would go unnoticed, as most of the traditional celebrations and acknowledgement activities were canceled. We bought graduation cards and put them in mailboxes so they would know that somebody in their community was aware of their accomplishment and recognized the value they add to the community because of those efforts. One house we passed frequently had very high grass and gardens that had been taken over by weeds. The lady who lived there came out on her porch one day as we were walking, and we stopped to chat. She was an elderly lady, and we came to find out that she had received a notice from the township that if she did not get her grass cut, she would be fined. But she had no way of doing it herself. So we had a work day, and we cut the grass, trimmed the trees, and weeded the gardens. There were beautiful roses and irises and many other flowers that were given a new lease on life. We continue to help keep that area neat. We tell you this not to brag about our accomplishments, but to show that the Friendship Center has a positive effect on the community it serves. There are many factors to a healthy community. Certainly sufficient funding is one, and we know that is a factor in the decision you as supervisors have to make regarding the future of the center. But the physical and emotional health of the community is equally important. A community that has a large variety of services and businesses attracts new residents. A community that is well kept and promotes the physical and emotional health of its citizens. Whew, these masks are hot. Encourages continuous growth and prosperity. The Friendship Center does just that. It is not a place to just work out your body. They have many activities to engage community members of all ages and activities so that people feel they belong. The Senior Center, the swimming classes for children, the summer camps all provide opportunities for personal growth and friendship that are not available in just a gym. Those opportunities would be lost if the center is closed or if another entity who does not have the same mission as the Friendship Center takes it over. There is a cost to promoting and sustaining growth in your community, and that cost relies in a large part to the taxes paid by the residents and businesses. Although we all hope we never need the services of the police, fire, and emergency departments, we pay our taxes so that those are available when needed to the whole community. Similarly, school taxes are paid by all, whether they have children in the local school district or even have children at all. But we recognize that education for the children of the community is extremely important for the common good. There are, no doubt, taxpayers in Lower Paxton Township who do not pay a membership fee to the Friendship Center, and yet they benefit from the common good that is provided by having it available to the community. You as the Board of Supervisors have a very difficult job and don't often get acknowledged for the hard work and time you put in making this a good and safe community. Too often, all you hear is complaints. People don't tend to speak about the good things when they're satisfied, but are quick to let you know when they're happy about something that is wrong. Well, we are very happy with the Friendship Center and wanted to know what it means to many of us. We know there are other groups of friendships that have developed similar to ours at the center. Among our group, we have many, many years of experience in public and private businesses, and we offer our expertise in many areas to you to help make the decisions you have to make regarding the future of the Friendship Center, and we sincerely hope that it does have a future in our community. Thank you again for allowing us to speak with you on this matter.
Thank you. Next. And I would ask those who are going to speak on a topic other than a senior center or other than the Friendship Center to allow us to go through all the Friendship Center comments first so we don't zig and zag from one topic to another.
I'm going to take this
Yeah,
off
that's
as a
fine.
little warm.
Yeah, I think somebody might have passed out if it got any hotter. Well.
Thank you, Chairman Lohman Henry. I appreciate the opportunity to come up and talk to you, as well as the other commissioners. My name is Larry Nowicki. I live at 4301 Stoneleigh Court, Harrisburg, PA. My wife and I have been members of the Friendship Center since its inception 20 years ago. To be honest, I normally visit the center daily to work out, sometimes twice a day when I take my granddaughters to swim. They're a year and a half and 2.5, and I have to applaud Commissioner Chrisman. He can attest to this. He's their instructor, and he's done a great job with them. When entering the center, I periodically take time to look down and read many of the names of the individuals, families, and businesses in the area who purchased bricks in support of the community center for the township. In fact, many of these individuals are community leaders and are present here this evening. For one, Sandy Prawl, who donated endless hours, more hours than you guys have put in to your jobs. She's put in more, probably 10 times more. It has made that building the centerpiece of this township and something that mostly everyone here tonight is proud of. Last week I was asked to attend a meeting of the Friendship Center Operating Board, which at that time I thought was being held to discuss the reopening of the center, which had already been closed for nearly 3 months due to the pandemic. Initially, the meeting started out informing those in attendance of all the precaution the management was taking to ensure a safe environment for those to work out in for its members upon the reopening. At that time, I had no clue that the township was even considering turning management of the center over to the YMCA. As the meeting progressed, the township manager spoke, and I quickly realized that this matter appeared to be a financial issue and, in my opinion, had nothing really to do with the reopening of the center due to the pandemic. Again, this was just my general opinion of that meeting. With that said, my question to the supervisor is why it took so long to share this dire information with the members and residents of the township. I feel this matter was discussed in a vacuum, and the supervisors, present and past, have been disingenuous with the residents of the township who financially support the center, not to mention the employees who do an outstanding job keeping the center running. And I'll acknowledge Rachel, wherever she's here. Great job. Had the community and its members been aware of the problems, perhaps the township would have heard better options to resolve the matter, and perhaps a better resolution to the financial situation could have been made. The travesty now is the center is quickly losing its members to other facilities in the area due to its decision to delay the reopening, regardless of who takes it over. I'm not sure how long this financial matter has lingered, but to allow a financial problem to exacerbate year after year is not a positive sign of strong business practices, and then for that matter, should be a concern for all residents of the township. Thank you very much for allowing me to express my thoughts.
Thank you. Take your time.
Thank you. I've had my 2 back fusions. I think I'm working on them.
Okay.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm speaking as a transplant from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yay.
Thank you. I'm going to take this down.
Go Steelers.
Also, I am a retiree of adult probation at Dauphin County, so I've been around. I know I've been very familiar with the county. I wish to address, as you saw me limping across the floor here, the medical reasons why the Friendship Center should stay open. I've had a bad back, which was not helped by marching in parades as DUI duck, but in the last 7 years since I retired, I've had 2 back surgeries, and I think I'm going to be having my 3rd pretty soon. The Friendship Center, especially the water classes, have enabled me to continue walking, which I would not be able to do and would not be able to be here tonight. And I want to emphasize how much this helps the health of the community, especially the seniors, because I take my water class through the senior center. But I can't emphasize enough how much it has helped me. And my doctors have even said, if I say I'm taking this water aerobic class, they say, you don't need physical therapy. That's better than physical therapy. Being from outside the community, I forgot to give you my address. Sorry. I'll give it to you when I end. Being from outside the Harrisburg community, I can see how much this does, because I did work very closely with organizations in Pittsburgh, primarily with the arts, and I have been very, very admiring of what the Friendship Community Center has done for this community. And I'm also going to quote a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, who some of you older people might know. His name was Bob Alexander. He was on the radio. We were talking about it the other night, and he said he can see what the community center has done for me, and what not only it means for me, but what it means for the whole community of Lower Paxton Township. He thinks it is a jewel in the township's crown. So I want to thank you for letting me speak. And my name is Barbara Highland. I live at 5079 Stacy Drive East, apartment 1702. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you. Careful. Oh,
Hi, my name is Dorothy Hess. I live at 102 Centerfield Drive in Harrisburg. I've been a member of the Friendship Center for many years. I've been here talking about the Friendship Center in the past. Just to let everyone here know, when the first day that I walked into the Friendship Center, I did not walk under my own steam. I came there using a rollator, and a friend of mine dropped me off at the door. If it weren't for the encouragement of people in this township and for the great teachers at that center, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. So I think the Friendship Center is a wonderful place. The people that I've met there are wonderful, and we have had a lot of people who have done presentations at the Friendship Center. The police department has done some. The fire department has done some. So at that location, the community center is the place where a lot of things in terms of the community are being distributed. The information is being distributed. But even though I know that the Friendship Center is a wonderful place, I realize that there are some financial issues that are arising. And I thought to myself that I think there's a few things that maybe should be thought about doing. Possibly before someone makes the decision here, people should poll the community and really find out, what do we want? I mean, you guys represent us, and it seems like some people think that their voices aren't being heard. So maybe it's important to ask everybody, what do you want to do? Would you be willing to spend a little bit more money? And how do you want your tax dollar distributed? The second thing I think that would be important is possibly we could ask people if they would be willing to donate their work and help. Do some things at the Friendship Center that might cost a lot of money, and do it for free. There are people in this community that if they knew that the roof was leaking and that is why you're closing the Friendship Center, they'd say, well, geez, I'd come over and fix that. You know, just buy the materials and I'll be there. The other thing that I think, and the reason I think that is because my husband volunteers at the AACA Museum, and at that museum there's someone who's actually installing a mini split air conditioning system in one of the buildings. They're buying all the equipment, they're installing it for free. And if anyone has had that done at their house, they know that's not cheap in a personal residence. This is in a gigantic building that's housing lots of cars. The other thing that I think that the Friendship Center might want to think about is possibly recharacterizing themselves as a not-for-profit organization. By doing that, you would be able to get a lot of tax benefits and discounts. Contractors and other people may be more apt to say they'd be willing to help because some of their work would be write-offable in terms of taxes. And I was also surprised to find out the AACA Museum is listed as a tax-deductible organization. I went out on the web and I printed what requirements you need to do in order to become generally to be a not-for-profit organization. The one basic goal is that a non-profit organization donates its revenue to achieve a specific goal that benefits the public instead of distributing it to the shareholders. Well, gee, doesn't that sound like the Friendship Community Center? So I made copies of that for all of you. These are details from off the internet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
thank you. Yep, there we go.
It's just something to consider. I don't know if it'll work.
They can work. They can work. I run one, so I'm familiar with the law. And it was something actually I think that we discussed with Jack about doing. So yes, nonprofits can be beneficial.
I've been over at the AACA Museum, and I don't want to talk about numbers too much, but I think there's about 5 people that are employees. The rest of the people are running the place. They have supervisors that are volunteers. They have volunteers working for volunteers. You know, all of these people aren't getting paid. And then what the ACM Museum does is they make it so enticing to be a volunteer that people want to be there. For example, they have a picnic for them. They, you know, have a lot of get-togethers and things like that. Oops. But I guess it wouldn't happen in coronavirus time. But they do a lot of things to make them want to be a volunteer. And it makes the people feel like, who work there as volunteers, feel like a community themselves. So I just think it might be something to consider. I don't think that shutting the place down is the way to go. There's too many people like myself who don't have children. All of my friends have moved out of the area. You know, I rely on the Friendship Center for a lot of my entertainment, you know, and for my camaraderie and things like that. So I think it's a mistake to shut it down. You know, I think we need to find a way, all of us need to find a way to try to keep it open. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak on the subject of the, yes, ma'am. Please come to the podium, give us your name, which I know, but give us your name and address anyhow. It's hard to recognize you with a mask on.
Come on, I might take this off.
There you go.
Thank you. Sandra Prawl, 1001 Homestead Avenue, Lower Paxton Township. I'm going to speak about the Friendship Center because I've been around since the beginning. I've been involved when the idea first was formed. We had a lot of people working to research, to develop. We had supervisors, staff, we had volunteers, consultants, architects. Everybody was working together to provide a place for the township's socialization, as many people have talked about tonight, and year-round indoor recreation. So it could be a source of physical and mental wellness for our residents. It was a totally transparent process over many months, which also included, we had a televised meeting. I don't know if anybody here remembers that. It even had a call-in capability, so residents could call and register their questions or their opinions. Actually, I think it was pretty sophisticated for those days. Then the township mailed a survey to every Lower Paxton taxpayer asking their opinion on whether a community center should be built. The response was 60% favorable for a community center. The supervisors approved the project after the consultants told them it would never make money. It was township recreation. It was a service. But our township community center is rated among the top 5% financially in this country, thanks to staff and everybody else who has worked so hard. The operating board over many years has tried very hard to provide what the citizens want at the best price possible. When the supervisors approved the project, the volunteers went to work raising money. There was a total of $750,000 raised by volunteers from individuals and businesses in this township, and $100,000 was donated from Dauphin County toward the senior center. It was a multitude of effort. Now I'm worried because the process of considering what is going to happen with the community center seems to be a process that is not open and transparent. The operating board, as you've heard from Jack, was not aware of the supervisor's discussions with the Y, nor the supervisor's decision to keep the Friendship Center closed after the pandemic restrictions were lifted. As you've heard tonight, I think that was a blow to many members and also to many people who use the center. So they felt, from people I've talked to, that the township wasn't worried about their health and wellness. Yes, they were worried about the funds, the money. Everybody's always worried about the money. But this is not the same as paving a road. This is people's health and wellness. And many people have said to me, we don't even think it was a sound business decision. As you've heard, many people are now seeking other memberships, and they won't be there for the township's reopening or the Y's reopening, which will disappoint everyone. We don't know if some cooperative effort between the township and the Y would be good for Lower Paxton Township, because we don't have any information. The process is not being carried out in a transparent manner. There are many important questions to be asked and to be answered in a public process prior to any future or ongoing efforts by a small amount of supervisors to determine the fate of this center for our community and its citizens. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else on the Friendship Center? Okay. How many more want to talk on the Friendship Center so I can? Okay. Thank you very much. I mean, if you have new things to say, please take the time to say them.
I think we all echo
Yes.
all of the information we're hearing. Jack did a great job in summarizing the meeting. My name is Phil Grant. I live at 4831, I think, Sheffield Court, right here in Amesbury, right next door to the Senior Center. My comments want to focus, and I had a chance to chat with Brad a little, about some of the liabilities the township is taking, especially the supervisors. And with the understanding of what we heard on the news report, and of course at the operating board meeting, the discussion is that the Friendship Center will remain shut down for at least 6 months till some agreement is established with the Y. I mean, that's what the news reported. Basically, that's what we heard. And I see you're shaking your head. Issues on liability, I see, you have a contract agreement with the Senior Center. And that contract agreement was originally drawn up, as Sandy shared about the donations made. There was donations that were committed, provided a Senior Center facility would be added. And that's what we know as the East Annex. So based on that commitment, you have an obligation. It's roughly a 25-year free use agreement for the Senior Center. So we heard from Rebecca, Jack, and everybody that right now the supervisors basically are keeping the Senior Center shut down. The word we heard at the operating board meeting was that the Senior Center could actually have been open last week based on all the equipment moving, all the all the work that was done there relative to create spacing. And as we heard from Rebecca, Rachel, use her name, that there was looking at people coming into the center, how many did a time and motion study looking at the pool area, the fitness center, the gym, and some of those utility buildings. So the agreement I believe that you have with the Senior Center, and I'm a member both of the Friendship Center and the Senior Center, is that you're in violation of that agreement, that free use agreement. Well, it's in place. If the facility is open, available to be open, you basically are violating it by not allowing the seniors to use the facility. The other issue is I've worked with the Department of Aging and we were able to acquire 2 major grants from the Department of Aging over the last 3 years. Some of those involve capital improvements. We put a new security lock system there at the senior center entrance. We cut the curb. We did some major modifications on the health and safety for the seniors. Part of those grant awards by the state had commitment statements relative to how long they weren't going to give funding for any capital improvements unless there was some assurance that that facility would operate for up to 5 years. So I believe there's some liability issues relative to now the grants that were awarded to the Department of Aging, but also the township received some major grant money relative to some improvements you've done at the Friendship Center. So I believe there could be some issues there. The last point I'll make, and again, I'm a business person. You know, basically that facility is a public facility. It was financed through tax and also, as we heard from Sandy, about the donations that were given. And if there comes to be an agreement, like a lease agreement, where the Y can come in and basically operate that facility, I think you're violating the option of giving other people, other businesses, to have an opportunity, if you're putting it available for leasing, that you're violating basically the fact that when you bid on work at that Friendship Center or any building within you, you go out for bids. And so I would suggest that you go back and look at basically if there is a lease that's going to make that facility available, that you could be in some jeopardy relative to that. So, and I echo everything else relative to the personal use. My mom's 94, and she's been using that facility for the last 20 years. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who's next? There were a couple other hands went up, so yeah, go right ahead.
This thing is coming off.
Yes.
Hi there, my name is Sue Kaniski. I live at 6121 Mayfair Drive in Harrisburg. And I've lived in Lower Paxton Township for over 17 years and have used the Friendship Center in all kinds of ways during that time. My kids learned how to swim there. I've taken classes, swimming classes, spin classes, yoga classes, all kinds of things to instill a healthy lifestyle for me. My husband trained for marathons throughout the winter months there, and together we have developed a network of friends that have become part of the fabric of our lives. And those are just my examples of the impact of the Friendship Community Center. And I know there are hundreds of other stories like many that we've heard from you folks. The Friendship Center was appropriately named. The number of friendships that have been developed and the sense of community this facility has fostered are so important to a vibrant, thriving place to live, work, and play. I urge you to seek solutions to keep the center running and providing services to so many people in the township and beyond. If the issue is financial, let's develop a task force to address how this facility could be a revenue generator. When looking at the finances for the facility, my question is, what line item shows the positive impact of a community center, things like taxes and home values and crime rates? You know, is it just a line item of this facility costs this much money? But where are we looking at the other impact that might not be reflected? So I urge you to work hard on this. We love the Friendship Community Center. I've got several friends here with me, and they're my friends only because I met them there. And we are making a difference in the community, and you can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Alex Kermakov. I live at 2409 West Bayberry Drive. I'm the past president of the Lower Paxton Aquatic Club, LPAC, as Jack referred to it. LPAC's been the member, has been with the Friendship Center from the very beginning. Our founder, Rusty Owens, who just passed away, he was the founding member. He was the head coach of the club for many years, and I'm sure if your kids learned how to swim or swim competitively, they've worked with Rusty. On an annual basis, we have about 160 kids who are members of the swim team, and some of them are here with us tonight, and about 110 families. The sport of swimming is not for the faint-hearted. These kids swim 36, 38 weeks a year. They probably swim about 5 to 7 hours a week. It's a year-round sport. It's a year-round commitment for the families and for the athletes. This past year we started expanding outside of the pool. We didn't just want our swimmers to think of the Friendship Center as a place where they grow through pain in the pool, but we ventured out into the lifting area, the climbing wall, the basketball court. My own kids started talking about the Friendship Center as, hey, Dad, can you drive us over to play with basketball with our friends? On an annual basis, we probably contributed about $50,000+ to the revenue of the Friendship Center. We've enjoyed that facility. The facility, we've shared lanes with the aqua size classes with Gary and his students. So we are, we feel that that is a home to us. That there's a big LPAC banner hanging in there, and we wanted to add to that. Now that we're facing uncertainty, our members are, again, they've committed to the sport, they've invested into the sport. They're looking at other places, and they're not looking in the township because there's not another team in the township. They're now looking outside the township. They're looking to drive to Carlisle, West Shore, Mechanicsburg. And so I know that you have a financial decision to make, and I know it's a difficult decision. I'm not trying to minimize the decision you have to make, but I encourage you to keep the facility open as much as you can, as quickly as possible, because we are losing momentum as a community. We're losing momentum as the place where kids can hang out, where they can grow, where members can go, where people can find a sense of community, and where the community comes together. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, one more? Anybody else after that? Two. Okay, two or three more.
My name's Elizabeth Nur, and I live at 926 Sunny Hill Lane in the township. And I've been a township resident for 40+ years. And I've also been a Friendship member for 17+ years. And many of the people in this room, I've been in classes with them. Patty and I were in a class together when I first joined. And I would like to echo a lot of the other concerns, especially the transparency. That is probably my biggest concern of the closure. But I think there are a couple points missed. And as a retired physical therapist, I want to echo how important the pool is for people to continue to do their programming for physical therapy. And it doesn't have to be a physical therapist doing it, having the person do it, but if they can go and do their exercises on their own. And the Friendship pool is the only one that's warm enough in the area to accomplish that, and also the accessibility of that pool. And I had a family member that had taken advantage of that. Now she cannot do that, so she's sort of in a lurch. And in fact, she was in the pool, and some people here might have been in with her with oxygen on, and I would take her and hold on to the oxygen for her. But also, I think one point that was missed so far was diversity.
Was what, ma'am?
Diversity.
Oh.
Diversity. And I unfortunately today, the members here tonight, I don't think have reflected the diversity. And when I go in the gym, and I'm one of the early morning people, I do a spin class early in the morning, even though I'm retired, I'm nuts. But also, I like to go in and work out in the cardio room. And it is such a diverse population, and I really think it helps us learn to understand each other better, and we become friends with people of diverse backgrounds. And I really want to emphasize that. The other point, too, that made me concerned was Mr. Henry's remarks that I read on ABC 27's website about how it needs renovations. Well, we just went through renovations, didn't we? I remember the mess we had and the inconvenience, and it was when the climbing wall was built. And, you know, I would just hope that we just don't throw that money out the window, so to speak, and waste it and close the center. And again, I would like to speak to have the center to be continued, to be open, and hopefully, as you know, working all together, even maybe some fundraising, whatever it takes to keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Sue Kelly, and I live at 319 Molly Drive. Good evening, everybody, and friends of the Friendship Center. I'm going to keep this very short and sweet. First of all, I went to my drawer and I found a T-shirt from 2005 when I was a champion of summer volleyball. I've also been one of those 5:30 in the morning attendees at the Friendship Center, and we all could join a Planet Fitness for $10 a month. But we don't, and there's a reason for that. The YMCA is a business, the Friendship Center is a family. My thought to you is to table this. We are in a very trying time with this pandemic and everything else that's going on in the world. Many people would be here tonight, but many people don't know about this situation. This is critical to our township. We can't let go of something that has been so viable for all of us. So I'm asking, just table it. Do not make any decisions without the community knowing. And I certainly agree with the polling. This is true and down to our heart is our Friendship Center. Please don't let it go.
Did I see another hand over here? Okay.
LV Green, 108 Eric Drive in Lower Paxton Township. I remember I came to Harrisburg when I was 14 years old with my family and lived and worked here, went to school here, and my husband and I built a house in Lower Paxton Township in 1987. And by the year 2000 or so, we decided that we were moving to Florida to take care of my mother. My husband was able to transfer with his job there, and I was working for the state. I went to work for a municipality in Florida and worked there for 11 years until I retired. So I'm very familiar with budgets for municipalities, very familiar with everything that goes on in a municipality, and especially in South Florida, where there are millions of people basically there. I moved back after my husband passed away, and my mother also passed away. But I'm going to say first that I remember vividly around the year 2000 when we moved to Florida, when Lower Paxton Township was getting together. Everybody was contributing. People were raising money. The residents were raising money everywhere. It was very important. It was a wonderful thing that we were going to have this wonderful community center. When I went to Florida, I used to tell the people there, oh, in Harrisburg, in Lower Paxton Township, this is being built, which is great. So I came back to Harrisburg, as I said, after my mother passed away and my husband passed away 2 years ago, because of the friends that I had here, basically. And I was looking forward to going to the community center. And at the time, I was having all kinds of problems with my balance, with my walking, with my joints. I couldn't even open a jar with my hands. And the aquatics classes at the community center for the last 2 years, which I have attended 3 times a week, got me back to moving, got my balance back. I'm able now to garden, to do all kinds of things that I was not able to do when I first arrived here. The other thing is that the community center is not just the seniors that go there. There are 4 generations that are going there. It was wonderful for me to come back and to see that there were mothers with toddlers, that there were opportunities for their kids to do something while they went to the gym classes, that there were opportunities there in the summertime for hundreds of kids that joined the camps. So this, if you close the Friendship Center, it is really going to impact thousands of people in Lower Paxton Township, thousands of people that are not going to be happy because they have to look for a place to send their kids to camp. And the seniors, I think when I joined the senior center, I was number 342, and a lot more people joined after me. So, you are talking literally of thousands of people of all ages, from toddlers all the way up to the gentleman that said that his mother was 92, it goes there. So I urge you not to make a quick decision, find the money, figure out a way to do it, get some grants, get someone on your staff that can write grants, because you're going to have a lot of unhappy people. Yeah, do a poll. I'm sure that it's going to come out that the majority of the people in Lower Paxton Township realize that this adds to their property value here, And while Harrisburg is falling apart, I'm appalled after 20 years being away from here, 18 years actually being away from here, I am appalled to see parts of the city of Harrisburg, parts of Derry Street, parts of Paxton. We cannot let that happen to Lower Paxton Township. We have to keep this up, and the Friendship Center is exactly that, a friendship center for people of all ages. We need to keep that going, and the pool facilities we have are great. They're, I would say, compared to what they have in Florida, it is much better what you have here for people of all ages. So, thank you for letting
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
you. Did I see gentleman back here? Or lady? No, with masks on, it's hard to...
That's okay.
My name is Joanne Grant, and I live at 706 Melrose Street in Harrisburg. I'm actually the manager of the senior part of the center. I joined 7 years ago when I retired. Actually, my son got me started. I was the treasurer, assistant treasurer, and now I'm the manager. And I can say that being the manager is a lot of work. Our side, unlike the friendship side, we're all volunteers, all of us. I have one of the most fantastic staffs working with me to keep that center running. We average well over 500 members. Last year, I think we got up to 600, if I'm not, a little over 600? Well, that's this year. Yeah. I'm talking about last year. Yeah. And we've been working here of late, before we closed, very closely with Rachel, who is the manager of the center. The two of us have been putting our heads together on doing things together as a whole and not separate. This is one of the things that I think is super, super important. I don't know what to tell my members. I don't know what to tell my staff. And like Phil said, and like a couple other people said, I was kind of flabbergasted at our meeting on Monday when I found out that all these negotiations were going on and nobody knew about it. So I think that's one of the things that upset me the most. I hope that we can resolve this and come to some kind of agreement to keep the center open and to continue my work with Rachel and the rest of the staff members. And I thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Okay, is that everyone on the Friendship Center? Okay, all right, one more.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I'm Tom Thomas. I live at 5050 Circle Drive. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming today. I got to get this mask off. I'm sweltering it. First of all, let me say this is a very biased group here, I might add. So I hope you guys understand. I feel like after listening to the excellent talks that I heard from Jack and Sandy, Dorothy, Phil, I feel like the person that got called up to speak after Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address. But let me just say one thing. I've been involved in the Friendship Center for over 11 years now, and it's a gem. It's a real gem for this community. We're proud to have it here, and I hope you let us continue it. And I'm not going to reiterate the things that the other speaker said, but I think the majority of the people in Lower Paxton Township support the Friendship Center, and that's basically all I want to say.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no other comments on the Friendship Center, let me sort of give you some background. You may not like all of the background. We don't necessarily like all of the background. As a matter of fact, some parts of it we are very unhappy about. Let me first address the issue of the Senior Center. The Senior Center is not part of the negotiations with the YMCA, and the Senior Center is a facility that will reopen. It will reopen under the auspices of the township. I'll give you a little bit of historical background of my personal involvement with that center. Back in the, I can't believe it's been 20 years ago, back in the early 2000s, the seniors who were going to the center were feeling that they were sort of being pushed out in terms of not having enough space or opportunity to have programming. I was serving as a Dauphin County Commissioner at the time, and I was Oversight Commissioner over the Area Agency on Aging. So those individuals ended up in my office. That was how this East Annex came into being. It was county funding, a county grant, that allowed that to be built, at least in part, if not whole. I don't remember the exact percentages at this point. But we had a commitment to the Senior Center then. We have a commitment to the Senior Center now. Our goal is to reopen it as quickly as we feel we can do so safely. And our hesitancy in an immediate reopening, if you read the news articles on the population that has been most affected by COVID-19, it is people over the age of, in particular, 70, but even 65. The COVID-19 virus has been responsible for almost 4,000 deaths at nursing and personal care homes in Pennsylvania alone. So our concern is that when we reopen the Senior Center, we want to do so in a manner that is safe. And the last thing we want to have happen is that an outbreak of coronavirus ends up going through that center. So be assured, we are going to reopen the Senior Center. It will reopen with all the programs that it has, and we will do so as soon as we believe it to be safely possible. Our hope had been to pretty much be there now. We are watching very closely some of the spikes in coronavirus that are taking place, particularly in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County and Philadelphia. Matter of fact, you talk about opening of the Friendship Center. In some of those areas, gyms that had opened are now being reclosed because of the spread of the coronavirus. So I think it's important for us to understand we are not out of this epidemic yet, and our first and foremost concern is that whatever we do does not contribute to a spread of the coronavirus among our senior population or anybody else. And I think we are probably unanimous in our agreement on that. So aside from the Senior Center, it had not been our plan, obviously, to close the Friendship Center in March. That closure came about, as you know, because the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania ordered all such facilities shuttered. We had no choice in what to do there. So it remained shuttered. Then we came to the point where Dauphin County went into the green phase, and a number of other items. And yes, it is largely financial. And while we are fully aware of the health benefits, the wellness benefits, the community benefits of the Friendship Center, there is no escaping the financial component to this issue. And what occurred as a result of the coronavirus, and it has impacted every municipality, every county, every state government, every school district in the country, is Lower Paxton Township has taken a very serious revenue hit because of the fact that we had all these closures and people have been laid off. And our township has been particularly hard hit with unemployment. We have a fairly large number of state employees and others in Lower Paxton Township, more so than most other municipalities. Normally that's a plus. In an economic recession, state employees, county employees don't get laid off. That unfortunately has not been the case with the coronavirus. So we had a dramatic spike, what was it, 243%?
About 219%.
219%. From the Bureau of Labor Statistics, not us. A 219% spike in unemployment in Lower Paxton Township. So the bottom line is we've taken a revenue hit, and the reason why we can't give you a definitive timetable is that we do not yet know what that revenue hit is, because we just had the end of the quarter on June 30th. It takes 4 or 5 weeks for us to get revenue collections from various agencies, so we know how serious that hit has been. Being proactive, last month, we instructed the township manager to work with our department heads to reduce the budget, because we know the revenue hit is going to be substantial. The manager and our department heads put together almost $1 million in budget cuts, which we approved last month. Having asked every other department, having demanded every other department cut budgets, we obviously couldn't turn around and spend more on the Friendship Center. And as we looked at the reopening plans and the proposed reopening plans, we were not confident that we could reopen the Friendship Center without incurring substantial additional cost. So we can't be cutting on the one hand and then adding more expenditures on the other, because that wipes out the benefit. And again, we don't know what the loss in revenue is quite yet, which is why we said we're going to keep the Friendship Center closed through the summer months till we get the numbers and we can determine what our revenue is. And at that point, we can then make a decision as to how to proceed. We have made no decisions past that. So anything that you've heard is simply not true. Addressing the overall financial problems of the Friendship Center, Jack, if you think you're frustrated about getting financial information on the Friendship Center, I have tried for 2 years to get a handle on exactly how much money this township spends on the Friendship Center. I know there is the official budget, but money comes from various different pockets of funds. For example, the township pays, what's the amount that we pay in the debt smoothing? Gary probably knows the number.
About $160,000, north of $160,000.
The township out of tax revenue puts $160,000 a year into what is euphemistically called debt smoothing. It's actually deficit financing, because the center does not generate enough revenue to pay its debt service. And what threw up red flags for me, last year the township entered into a major bond issue to finance a whole wide range of projects, which, by the way, included we borrowed money to replace all the HVAC systems on the roof of the Friendship Center. We spent, what, $120,000 last year, Robin?
$115 last year, and we just borrowed $335,000 on this last.
And those HVAC units are going to be installed next month. So believe me, we're not borrowing that amount of money and replacing HVAC systems in order to shutter the facility and throw up plywood and not use it. So we have made capital investments in the facility, and I believe maybe the grant request came from the operating board. There's also county grant funding coming in to refinish the gymnasium floor. So there are improvements being made, but believe me, there are a long list of very expensive other capital improvements that still have to be made. So I have attempted to come up with the overall cash figure is for what it costs us. And the bond rating agencies, in looking at that, actually took a look at the Friendship Center and said, this is something we're going to watch in the future, because the money you're spending on this Friendship Center could, in fact, down the road, impact the township's bond rating. And if our bond rating is downgraded, what that does, it increases the amount of money that we have to pay in order to borrow funds in the future, and that is an additional expense to taxpayers. So the one thing we cannot allow happen is our bond rating to be downgraded. So against that backdrop, we have had a number of discussions, and Jack's been here at various meetings, and it should come as a surprise to no one who has paid attention at all. I have talked at many, many meetings over the last 2 years about the financial difficulties of the Friendship Center. And I regret to say I still don't have a good handle on what the total costs are. So I share your frustration. So against that backdrop, we just did not feel that we could move forward in June with a reopening of the Friendship Center. Now, where we go to from here is very much a matter for discussion. And relative to transparency, yes, we have been having discussions with the YMCA. Those discussions were something we intended to roll out in a very organized manner as we went forward throughout this year. COVID-19, frankly, blew the whole plan out of the water. It required us to have to make decisions that we weren't expecting to have to make because of COVID-19, that we had to make quickly. As a matter of fact, the meeting of the Friendship Operating Board that occurred last week, we had the meeting with the YMCA only hours before that. So very soon after the meeting, that's why we sent Mr. Godshall to inform the operating board that we were having these discussions. Relative to the YMCA, let me emphasize, no decisions have been made. Before any decisions are made, we will have whatever our proposed course of action will be brought to a workshop meeting of this board, which is what we do with every issue. It'll be a workshop meeting. It will be advertised. You all, anyone in the community who wants to come in and comment on the proposed plan will be able to do so. And all that will occur before any vote or any decision is taken. We do not have specifics to give you about what a lease with the YMCA, an operating agreement, might be, because we haven't had those discussions fully yet. We don't have that information. And the only way we can decide how to proceed is to continue having these discussions with the Y and talk about what the lease might look like financially and what their programs might look like going down the road. And I can tell you this, Robin and I have had a number of discussions with the leaders of the YMCA. They have, in my view, bounced some really exciting ideas off of us. And we are of the belief that this could be a win-win all the way around. A win in that we could get an exciting new community partner, and they could bring some programming and classes and other things in that we aren't able to offer, and also relieve the financial pressure on the township. Because the situation is, if the revenue hit we've taken from COVID-19 is even more serious than what we are anticipating, that $1 million we cut may not be enough to finish the year in the black. That's a bigger problem because the township has a reserve fund. Unfortunately, a large part of that reserve fund are IOUs for money loaned to the community center, which means there's no cash in the bank, so our reserve fund is nowhere near what it should be. I find this to be a very big problem, especially because we are now in a time and situation where the reserve fund is something that we may need to tap. So the bottom line is we may need to take a look at tax rates just relative to basic services like police protection, fire protection, roads, and all those sorts of things. we do not want to raise taxes, property taxes, which is the only tax we have control of, on our citizens, particularly at this time. Somebody made the comment, well, just raise the taxes to cover whatever it costs to keep the Friendship Center open. Okay, if we do that, the first group of people who's going to be in here complaining are going to be our senior citizens who are going to have to pay more property taxes, because senior citizens already, in my view, unfairly pay more property taxes than what they should. Not only that, we have, as we've mentioned, a large number of people who are unemployed in Lower Paxton Township. Do we raise taxes on unemployed people who already can't put food on the table and make their mortgage payment? It is not a time to be raising property taxes. So we are forced into a very difficult position. But our goal is that the Friendship Center, under some business model, will reopen, and we want to do so in a way that is win-win for the community. That is our goal. I can't give you a lot of specifics because we're working through them. Ideas are welcome. Suggestions are welcome. We're at that point in the process. We have no document or anything at this point because we are at the very early stages. So those who say it's not a transparent process, the process is just getting started. And everybody will have ample opportunity to hear what we're thinking, and we will have, I'm sure, multiple meetings and public information sessions before we make a final decision. So the only thing I can say is we ask that you bear with us. We are under extraordinarily difficult financial times. We don't have a clear roadmap as to where everything goes to from here. But our goals are, one, to reopen the senior center at the very earliest time that we believe it's safe to do so. And we will continue working on various potential business models for the Friendship Center and move forward as quickly as possible, but not before more information is brought to you. Now, I hope I didn't go around in too many circles. I was trying to make notes as everybody was talking. Well, yes. Well, exactly what you just said is what we're talking about. You know, we're like I say, we just spent all this money. Well, we spent all this money putting new HVAC systems in, and I guess that's one of the benefits of the closure. Now we can get the work done while the facility's closed. But we're not spending all this money on the center to shutter it. You know, and our efforts at talking with the YMCA is that we feel that them being a national organization and their primary business are operating facilities like this, not to mention the fact that somebody mentioned the whole issue of a nonprofit corporation. The YMCA is not a for-business operation. It is a nonprofit corporation. And the YMCA can operate a capital campaign, which is exactly what they plan on doing if we come to an agreement with them. They are going to operate a capital campaign where they can get grant-making foundation money and other major donor gifts that are tax deductible for the giver, and they can bring a lot of revenue in to do capital improvements that we could never afford as a totally government entity. So yes, it would be a partnership. We're not selling it. You know, we're going to continue to operate the senior center. We have Dreher Chiropractic in part of the building. We think it can be an exciting partnership that can be a win-win, and many details remain to be worked out, and as they are, we will put them before you before final decisions are made. Would any other board members like to comment?
Yeah, I'd just like to comment. I'm not too sure if the senior center is aware, but in our general fund budget, we do, the township, give the Friendship Center $25,000 a year just to have the senior center in the annex. It is a Dauphin County senior center, but we do not get 1 penny from Dauphin County. Yes, they gave the $100,000 up front, but they do not give us any money at all. So I do want to let everybody know that we do support the senior center by giving the 25. Whoever would move into the Friendship Center, if that happens, we would continue to give them the $25,000 also. So the senior center is not going away. The Y is excited if they do take over to have the senior center. They're very family, they're very community. They can offer summer camps So there's lots of stuff for the children. So it's going to be on the same lines as the senior center if it should happen. But just wanted to make sure that the people that do go to the senior center know that the township is very supportive with that.
And we'd like to see some more county dollars come into it as well. So we're going to lobby for that. But hopefully we can reopen that senior center very soon. We're going to keep an eye on the coronavirus situation here over the next couple of weeks, and just as soon as we believe it to be safe, we'll get that going. The discussions with the Y are ongoing. There's really not much more I can say about that. We don't have specific details. Of course, we are very committed to keeping our full array of parks and recreation activities going. That may be in partnership, it may be apart from, all those sorts of things need to be worked out. I hope that answers everybody. We're trying to give you as much information as we can, knowing that we don't have a lot of information ourselves yet. Yes, sir.
I think we all appreciate what we heard about the senior. Part of the agreement you have.
Excuse me,
Could you come to the podium? It might be a little easier for us to.
We are appreciative of hearing about the senior center and your commitment there, and if I can speak for Joanne and Mary and several others. The question I have, the agreement contract, the free use agreement, is not just free use of the facility, it's a commitment of staff from the Friendship Center, from Rachel and her team, doing setups, takedowns of tables, chairs, supporting with computer systems, everything. So it's going to require just, not just allowing seniors in there, there needs to be a support staff available to do that. So I would just,
You're getting into the tall weeds of details, and the number of details that have to be addressed is somewhat mind-boggling because everything is so interrelated and interconnected. So yes, we're going to have to work through all those things, but certainly the township will continue to support the senior center with whatever support services it needs. We think the senior center is very valuable. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for your comments, Supervisor Robin. It sounds like you've had more than one discussion with the Y, and why can't we see what those discussions entail? What proposal has the Y put forward so all of us can have a look at it in addition to the whatever working group has put together with the Y?
Let me comment on that. Just so you know, I've never spoken with the Y as a supervisor. I'm learning a lot of this stuff just like you are. That's how early into the process we are. So,
let me explain a little bit how we have to operate. If three of us sit in on the meeting, it becomes a public meeting. So Mrs. Lindsay and I have been the two who have met with the Y. This is a contract negotiation. Contract negotiations do not take place in public. In fact, contract negotiations are primarily going to be done between our solicitor and their solicitor, and then they will bring whatever proposed information, whatever proposed document there is back to us. I mean, even none of us are going to actually be in that room. It's going to be the solicitors who are going to work it out. Once we have a proposed lease agreement, notice I use the word proposed, then that document will be made public, and we will have a public meeting like this. You all are more than welcome to come back at that point. You will see the document. You can comment on it. We may or may not take suggestions that are made, depending on what is suggested. I mean, we can't take everybody's suggestion on everything. But there's just a point in the process where you just have to have preliminary talks, and that's where we are. Which is why we don't have more details to give you yet. Our goal is to get to those details as quickly as possible. We were concerned about the Y's commitment to moving forward in view of the fact they had to shut down through the coronavirus pandemic as well. They, however, and keeping in mind that the YMCA leadership has to work through their own board of directors as well. So we have that component. And their board of directors couldn't hear that we were having even preliminary discussions from reading it in the newspaper. So there's a lot of diplomatic steps that sort of have to be taken. Sandy? Yes, please. Mm-hmm. Hmm? Yes, actually. Actually, the Y approached us. So,
may I suggest the Y has had interest since the building was built?
Yes.
But I suggest perhaps the method of working should be the exact opposite of how you're working with the Y. That perhaps the people who know best of what the arrangement should look like, what the township needs, would be the operating board and Rachel, who should be involved to tell the supervisors, rather than the supervisors working first. I think you're working backwards.
Well, I completely disagree. You cannot. The issue is the Friendship Community Center is a failed business model that is costing the township hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. In good times, we were able to cover that. We are now in what is or is about to be the most trying time for municipalities in recent history. We cannot give you the open checkbook, Sandy, that you are asking for. I know you've had it for 20 years. We cannot continue to do that. And, well, yes, she has been asking for that. Well, not just now, but she has in other communications asked for just that. No, it is not unfair, and you can deny it here in public if you wish. What I'm saying is we have overall, with the township's budget, a serious financial issue because of loss of revenue from COVID-19. A loss of revenue, the degree to which we do not yet know. And we have taken steps to address it, but we do not know whether they are enough. So we cannot move forward with anything until we know what we're dealing with. It would be totally irresponsible of us to do so. And yes, we understand the health and wellness. We understand the community aspects of the Friendship Center. That's why we're working toward a partnership that would be a win-win rather than say, oh, we can't afford it, we're going to close it down. We didn't say that. We have to be given time to gather the information that we need and have preliminary talks and move forward. That's just the way it has to be. Do we like that we're in this situation? Believe me, we do not. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if I need to have a big mouth.
You have to.
Take. Well, I don't want you yelling over people with the mask off. That's. I just expressed concern over coronavirus. So I don't want to. Okay. I don't want to encourage you to yell.
I'm just wondering. I mean, one of some of the things you said sounded very hopeful. The one thing that concerned me when I was listening is you said you were talking about different programs they had and looking how it would work with our township. And I'm just wondering who is on this decision-making panel from our end that knows what we as the people who go to the Friendship Center value. Mm-hmm. Not someone who's a money person. We need someone in there maybe who's going to listen and maybe not keep their mouth shut, and you know what I'm saying, if they can, and just say, hey, you're missing X, Y, and Z, which maybe you don't see on paper, but it's important to be addressed and included.
Yes. We will get to that point. However, the first thing we have to work through are the financial models and get us to a point where we have a partnership or some other business model that will allow us to reopen without having to enact a tax increase. Because I can assure you, if you think this room, y'all want the center reopened, as do we, by the way.
Sure.
Okay, we're in agreement. If you think there's a lot of people here now, if we have to have a major property tax increase, and believe me, it would have to be a major one to move forward the way we've been going, this room will be overflowing into the parking lot with people screaming. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to find a way to balance the need to reopen the center, hopefully with a new partner that can bring additional outside revenue sources in that we can't, in order to reopen it, have the asset here in the community, and not have to raise taxes on property owners.
I guess
which is hard.
What's confusing to me, though, is when you talk about it, and maybe it's because I don't have the technical knowledge that you do. When you talk about a business model and then you say, well, we talked about the programs that they have, and I go, wait a minute, that's talking about us now.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It makes me feel like it's part of what your discussion is.
Programs are different from business model. And I may have, in trying to hit all the points that I took notes on, mixed some of the things together. And if I confused you, I'm sorry for that. But the first thing we have to do is, first of all, figure out where we are, because we haven't been able to get a firm answer on that. And once we figure out where we are, once we get clarification on our overall financial picture, hopefully later this month or in early August, then, and we can have some, solicitor meeting with the solicitor for the Y, maybe start getting a framework to see if we're going to be able to move forward. We may or may not. Then we can start putting a plan, and we can start letting the operating board know, letting you know, moving forward. We're just, and I understand everybody's concern, but we're at a very early stage.
And the lease you talk about, I know you're probably not anywhere near this thought process yet, but my thought to that was, well, gee, if it doesn't work out, you just say, hey, the lease is over and goodbye YMCA. You know what I mean?
The lease, if there is one, would have to be a very long-term lease.
Okay.
We're talking 50, 99 years, because the Y is not going to be able to go to grant-making foundations and major donors and secure capital improvement monies unless they know that they're going to be operating the facility at least for the life of the loan, the life of the investment in their improvements. So, a lot of details, yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of details.
God bless you.
Well, I understand everybody's concern. The only thing I would ask is that if you just be a little patient. We had planned on rolling this out in a much more orderly manner, but our hands sort of got forced here. Sir, did you have something before we move on here?
Yeah, just one more comment.
Would you come to the podium so you're... No. I don't want you doing that. Yeah, I don't want people yelling over other people without masks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Previously, I mentioned poor business practices. You say you don't have the financials. How do you create a budget for the following year? Obviously, this has been going on for many, many years.
Yes, sir.
And you finally acknowledge it, and you're telling us that everything's transparent. I have a hard time with all this. You don't have good financials. How do you create a budget?
Good question.
Township manager.
Good question. I've only been back on this board for the last 2 years. And like I said, I've spent 2 years trying to get answers to those questions. And that is the exact criticism that I have had relative to the Friendship Community Center is we do not have, like, for example, the sewer department has its own budget, and the township, and they reimburse township for township manager's share of his time, the HR director's share of her time, etc. None of that is at play. The Friendship Center, township assets and funds are being expended from different parts of the budget, and as a result, it's hiding the true cost. What I'm trying to do is get to what the true cost is, and it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy.
Evidently, it hasn't been. No one before you could resolve it or solve it. I wish you the best.
Well, I think, thank you, sir, first of all, for that. But maybe one of the reasons why some others haven't wanted to touch the third rail here is that this occurs. You know, as soon as you try to deal with the problem and you try to come up with solutions, rumors start flying through the community and people get legitimately concerned. So, you know, we are resolved as a board that we are going to figure this thing out. It's just going to take us a little bit of time. Yes, ma'am.
Now that everybody else took their masks off when they're talking. So what it sounds like to me is that you are no longer looking at how you can shore up, improve the finances of the Friendship Center, and rather you're going towards the partnership with the YMCA, which makes sense. But what if that doesn't work out? Or what if it takes a year or two? And so we have no facility for that time. Are there any thoughts of how you could open the Friendship Center again while all this is going in play?
It will not take a year or two. Efforts at making the center financially viable have been, various boards have tried it for years. It's just the cost. And, you know, we now have a 20-year-old building. You know what 20-year-old buildings require. And a lot of people I know have put a lot of diligent effort in at trying to make it work. It just doesn't. If the why doesn't work out, I don't have an answer. Can we reopen it soon before the Y takes over? A lot depends on what sort of financial data we get in terms of our revenue over the next few weeks. Mm-hmm. Hopefully the revenue flow is such that we can. But if the money isn't there.
Okay. And my other question is, you're saying you receive no money from Dauphin County Area Agency on Aging for the Senior Center.
They gave the $100,000 up front for the annex, but we do not get anything on a yearly basis. And that's been for years that we started giving. Brad, you don't know, I'm going to say maybe 5-6 years we've been given the $25,000 a year. But yeah. No.
Because I'm familiar with other senior centers in other counties, and they are supported by their local area agency on aging.
And it is Dauphin County Senior Center. It is not Lower Paxton.
Right.
And we know that, you know, everybody comes from all over the place. Mm-hmm. They come from across the river, you know, which we're glad that they're all there, but no. So we're going to try to work on the commissioners to see if we can't get some money from them, which they are cutting also. They've had to lay people off because of the COVID.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
And, you know, we will rebound from this economic problem, hopefully quickly, but we're going to get back to where we need to be. And with that, unless somebody has something else, we do have a rather lengthy agenda tonight too. Would anybody else have any questions or comments before we move on to public comment on other issues? Thank you. Keep an eye on our website. Make sure you signed up on our social media. No, the other public, we're going to move on to public comment on issues other than the Friendship Center now. So, but keep an eye on our website, our social media, and we'll let you know when we have future informational meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Well,
it's hot.
That's what we're trying to do.
It's hot. It did. Yeah.
My agenda's already open. I haven't taken it off my agenda.
Yeah.
One thing we need to try something was the restrictions that we have on what we can actually use that facility for.
He touched an item that's been idle for
Well, I figured it was getting kind of lengthy, so I didn't bring it up.
Well, I didn't want to over-talk it.
Right.
Maybe.
Okay, so
let me see if I can hit it.
Okay, would anybody like to address the board on any item not on the agenda tonight? Please come to the podium and give us your name and address.
Now I have to come back in.
Apparently the Friendship Center was the big issue of the night.
Where's
My
Susan George?
issue seems small compared to
everything else being discussed tonight. Oh, yep, getting there.
Every issue is important, so.
Thank you.
Yes.
My name is Ashley Pollard. I live at 4925 Colorado Avenue, right down the street. I've been in touch with Amanda and Brad, who've been very helpful in me understanding the process, but about changing the zoning ordinances to allow the keeping of backyard chickens and to change the ordinances around backyard beekeeping. Again, small things compared to everything else being discussed tonight. I did write a letter in middle of May of this year. I just wanted to follow up in person. I know that the zoning ordinance rewrite happens only once every 10 years, so just wanted to make sure my voice was heard in this manner as well. But I've done some research around the backyard keeping of chickens and bees in other suburban and urban areas, including New York City, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh. And we'd just like to propose a rewrite of the ordinances to make sure that the regulations align with what's common in other areas. Specifically, I'm going to go ahead and read the ordinances as they stand, and then I also have proposed language rewrites that's also included in the letter, but I know we're short on time here.
No, take your time.
Okay, thank you. So the first one is Ordinance 403D2. The ordinance currently reads, hives shall be located a minimum of 100 feet from any lot line, except this setback shall be reduced to 50 feet if a 6 feet minimum height fence or solid hedge is located along the adjoining lot line for a distance of at least 100 feet from the hives. Just a small change that instead of a 6-foot perimeter fence, it is changed to a 6-foot fence directly around the hive. That allows for the bees to kind of be controlled, to have a highway of traffic at 6 feet, and you're given more control over the movement of the bees if the fence is directly around the hive versus around the perimeter. It would also make beekeeping more accessible to people in our township where the lot sizes are rather small. And then in addition, for the keeping of chickens specifically, I know during COVID-19 with the food supply shortages, my husband and I, the only way we've been able to get eggs until recently is through my father-in-law, who has chickens of his own in Palmyra. So I think it's an important piece of people feeling independent and confident and able to feed themselves during times of food shortages, which God forbid that never happens again. But I think when you look at other suburban and semi-urban agriculture standards, again in New York City, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, the keeping of roosters is not allowed, which is understandable, but hens are allowed. Right now, the ordinances in Lower Paxton Township read, and this is 403D12, pigeons, chickens, roosters, ducks, geese, and or similar fowl shall not be kept on a lot of less than 1 acre, which just seems a little unnecessary for a chicken, 1 acre. So instead of the above space limitation, I believe a regulation on the number of hens, for example, 4 or 5, would be more reasonable instead of having a space limitation, especially considering that so many of the yards in our township are less than 1 acre. Just make sure I covered everything. Oh, and I did notice also that the question around the keeping of chickens is number 5 on your frequently asked questions on your website. So I think this would probably be a very much supported ordinance change. And as far as the beekeeping is concerned, I've also done research and spoke to the Capital Area Beekeepers Association, who believe that the perimeter fence and the 50-foot regulation from the lot line is just a little unnecessary. So would love to just see those things change to make those beekeeping and the keeping of hens, not roosters, but hens, just more accessible for our neighbors in the township. Thank you.
Have you provided that information to Brad? Has she given you that?
I have, yes. I wrote the letter with the recommended ordinance changes
Okay.
And emailed it to the group email inbox.
We'll make sure that Amanda has that as we go into the process of updating our zoning ordinances. So maybe we'll have a birds and bees section.
That would be great. I also have a letter.
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
I also have a copy of that email here if you'd like it for your records. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak under public comment on an item not on the agenda this evening? Okay. I see a young gentleman here in a scout outfit. Are you here for your merit badge? Oh, you picked a great meeting. Would you like to come up to the podium and tell us your name and the troop and all that you're with? Or yeah, we always do this with scouts who are with us, so we get a chance to see you and hear your name and the troop and what it is you're working on.
My name is Declan Fletojohn. I'm working on my citizenship in the community merit badge with Troop 302 from chartered to Calvary United Methodist.
Great. Well, thank you, Declan. Good to have you here. You picked one of our longer meetings to attend, but you should get your merit badge and maybe a second one for your effort here tonight. Thank you.
There'll be a test later.
A test. Okay, that takes us to chairman and board member comments. You've probably had all the chairman comments you care to have for tonight. Board members, any comments?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, the board attended a service for Norm LaCrosse. He was on the shade tree for 28 years, and what we did was we invited him out to Centennial Acres Park, and we planted a tree in his name. And we also, the Lions Club came and they donated one of the recyclable benches. So we thank him for his 28 years of service on the shade tree, and I know that they're really going to miss him because he's very knowledgeable.
And Norm is a legend.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Nobody down there. Okay. With that, manager's report. Mr. Manager.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I have two items this evening, one of which you continue to hear every week, and that is the topic of the census. And I will keep giving the board an update on this as it is an immensely important topic for the township and for the Commonwealth in general. So as of July 1st, the township's self-response rate, and again, that's the rate at which our residents are completing their census obligations on their own through phone, the website, or a paper form, is now at 73.3%. It continues to increase each week. And this rating now moves us up as the 9th highest response rate in the county for such rates. West Hanover, again, is at number 1 with 77.5%, and now tied with South Hanover at that same rate. And again, just to give this some context, in 2010, the Lower Paxton self-response rate was 77.3%, so we're slowly inching our way up to that point. And this phase of the census ends as of October 31st, this self-reporting phase. So we have plenty of time to get us up to the 7.3%. To date, 4 in 10 households have yet to respond to the census nationwide. So as a result, the Census Bureau announced that they will be increasing their follow-up activities aimed at ensuring a complete and accurate count. With these activities, households that have already completed their census obligations may receive a call or an in-person visit just to ensure that everyone in the household was counted appropriately. So if you receive one of these follow-up interactions and you've already completed your obligations, don't be surprised that you are receiving a second follow-up or a third or whatever. Okay, Mr. Judd has already been through that. So.
You do, yeah. You get a follow-up even when you answer it. They want to check a few things. Yeah, that's good. No problem.
So the second item I have this evening is that of the Parks and Rec Board. As I had communicated to the supervisors, there is now a vacancy on the Park and Rec Board with the recent resignation of one of its members. So this 7-person community board acts in an advisory capacity on park development and recreation programming. The members serve for a 5-year term. So those that may have interest in joining this board are urged to visit the township's website for more information and instruction on how to apply. Other than that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to help provide a response.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We have no items under old business, so we will move to new business, where Mr. Weaver has been sitting patiently off to the side waiting to spend some money.
Yes, board members, thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you have in your packet Task Order 2020-1 that authorizes payment to Sierra W in the amount of $570,000 for the PennDOT Municipal Group Joint Pollution Reduction Plan. PennDOT opened bids on 3/9/20 for the Joint Sedimentation Reduction Project and awarded the project to the low bidder, First PA Resources LLC, which I provided the proposal in your packet. We started this process over a year ago with the municipal group, CRW, Susquehanna, and Lower Paxton. With Steve and the folks from the municipal group, we were able to work out a bid that was acceptable to everybody. The bid will provide for an allocation of $2 million for a defined sedimentation reduction with a $1 million contribution from the municipal group and a $1 million contribution from PennDOT. So this PRP project will reduce 500 and some thousand pounds of sediment, and under the modeling, it's actually more. The DEP model that we're using, which is over 750,000. So when you take the goal of 1.7 million and the reduction of over 700,000 pounds with our model, that makes up about 47% of our PRP plan under our DEP MS4 permit. So the parties are required to share the cost and the sediment reductions in accordance with the DEP approved plan. Our contribution under the PRP plan, which I've also put in your packet, is 57%. So since the parties are contributing $1 million, you take 7% of $1 million, that's pretty easy math. $570,000 is our contribution. Staff and HRG are recommending approval of the task order, and I'll be happy to answer any questions the board has.
Questions, board members?
Ours is definitely the large amount.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, and this is, you talk about sediment reduction, this is really the kind of the purpose of the stormwater fee. However, as we act tonight, we act as the township. Just curious, as I was reading it, why would this not be an authority matter?
Because
it's just question it now.
That's fine. That's a very good question. I actually asked the same question a couple years ago. The reason is the township is the permittee, and the reason we're the permittee is because the township regulates stormwater by the municipal planning code. So the authority owns the system, the township regulates it. Therefore, DEP issues the permit to the township, so therefore the agreement has to be with the township. But the township will not expend any money. The township will bill the authority through the management agreement, and we will pay the $570,000. So,
ultimately, this will be paid for by
the authority,
by the stormwater
fee. Correct.
Okay. I always like to connect the fees with the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good point. Just for the public, that the township is not expending any money. This is part of the stormwater fee.
Right.
I apologize. I did not mention that.
It's okay. It's the same people.
Right.
Same people. But I do like, and to know that that's part of this new reality, the efforts to reduce sediment by the amount that we're required.
Correct.
And this is supposed to be, on paper, and it looks like there's a reputable firm behind it, a big step forward.
It is.
Any other questions or comments? Any public input? Mr. Chrisman, you've been quiet all evening. Would you like to take a shot at a motion here?
Certainly. I'll be glad to, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll move we approve the task order 2020-1, which authorizes payment in the amount of $570,000 to CRW for the Paxton Creek Watershed Sediment Reduction Project as presented and recommended by Mr. Weaver.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Zumas. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. Now we need to, item 8B, we need to take action on ordinance 2020-06, repealing prior building permit issuance procedures under various ordinances. Mr. Weaver, wish to explain this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you have ordinance 20-06 that will repeal the prior ordinances 95-6, 95-7, 95-10, and 1904 that originally established the Beaver Creek permit allocation procedure way back in 1995. This is pretty simple. Way back in 1995, we had a ban on sewer permits, so we had to implement a procedure in order to effectively issue the few amount of permits that we had in fairness to the development community. At that point, Paxton Creek developers did not want an allocation. They wanted to work it out amongst themselves. We did establish it in Beaver Creek. A lot of things have changed since 1995. We have a corrective action plan that's been very successful. Therefore, SWAT-AIR and DEP, when we go to the negotiating table, is a lot more friendly. So they have allowed us to accumulate permits each year for the permits that we do not use. So since we have afforded this ability to accumulate permits over these years, we now have a sufficient amount of permits that it's not necessary to allocate permits on an annual basis. It saves on staff time, advertising costs to advertise the ordinance. You can see in my memo that we currently have 390 in surplus plus 168 that we just got issued. So right now we have 558 permits. I've also put in there the projected growth over the next 5 years that we put the DEP in our annual report, and you can see that we average around anywhere between 60 to 100 permits in Beaver Creek a year. So there's sufficient permits. So staff is recommending approval of ordinance 20-06 to eliminate these Beaver Creek permit allocation procedures, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Only a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
It's nice after 25 years that we're going to update this.
Yes. I agree.
Yes. Very good. Would you like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve ordinance 2020-06, which in fact repeals the prior building permit issuance procedures under ordinance 1995-6, 1995-7, 1995-10, and 19-04 as presented and recommended by Mr. Weaver.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mrs. Lindsay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Weaver, I think we kept you here a long time to get to those few minutes, but thank you for your patience. Subdivision and land development.
Here's another one.
Actually, one more left.
He has 8C.
C.
Change order number 1.
Oh, well, see, I was trying to get you off the hook.
I appreciate.
Yeah, change orders are not my favorite.
Well, this one's pretty
this
simple.
One's not bad.
This one I'm happy to make a motion on.
Please proceed.
Board members, change order number 1 is in your packet for the final adjustment of the quantities to actual quantities. Change order number 1 with Rogel is for our emergency contract that lasted 2 years. We just recently awarded a contract to Doley. So it's time to close this contract, and I know the board always loves this. This is a decrease in contract value in the amount of $6,636.58. It also extends the ready for final payment deadline to June 29th. Basically, the contract has already been closed out by the engineer. This is just really a formality to close out all of the change order documents. The engineering documents that we use in our contract requires that we do the final adjustment change order. Staff and the engineer recommend approval of change order number 1, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
It saves money.
Yeah,
Saves
no
money.
questions when there's.
We may want to have a motion to that effect.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve change order with Rogel for the emergency repairs to wastewater system for 2018 contract, with the original contract price of being $78,552.32, and the reduction is $6,636.58, reducing the amount now to $71,915.74, as recommended by Mr. Weaver.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Now, Mr. Weaver, I think we've concluded your part. And we will move on to Mrs. Zerby, where we need to take action on a final land development plan for Lot 3 at Blue Ridge Village.
Yes.
Mrs. Zerby.
The final land development plan for Lot 3 of Blue Ridge Village proposes to construct a 7,700 square foot multi-tenant retail building on Lot 3.
Get this one to come up.
Site improvements for the lot will consist of the installation of associated parking, utilities, and landscaping. No new stormwater management facilities are being proposed for this plan. Lot 3 will utilize the stormwater facilities that were constructed as part of Phase 1 of Blue Ridge Village. The site has a total area of 1.83 acres and is in the residential retirement development district and will be served by public sewer and water. The plan was approved at the June 4th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. The applicant has requested a modification of the design standards for screening in the required buffer yard, and this modification is justified in order to create a more appropriate visibility for the commercial use, and staff supports this modification request. There are 3 waivers requested for this plan. The first waiver request is for the requirement to prohibit landscaping, utilities, and site lighting within the drainage easement. Staff supports the request with the requirement that a note be added to the plan, removing obligation for repair or replacement of any of the items located within the easement. The second waiver request is for the requirement that no obstructions are located within the clear site triangle. Staff supports the waiver for the light posts in the clear site triangle as it is necessary to effectively illuminate the driveway. And the last waiver request is for the requirement to provide site landscaping amenities around the retail building foundation and the building entrance point. Staff supports the waiver request as there has been little foundation landscaping requirements established for the adjacent retail lots. There are only 4 administrative comments to be satisfied and 3 general comments for the plan. The engineer with R.J. Fisher is here to address any further questions the board may have.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. You get to take the mask off for a couple minutes.
Yeah, we'll take a breath of fresh air here. Yes, my name is Dan Wise. I'm with R.J. Fisher Associates, here representing the Triple Crown Corporation for their land development of Lot 3, a retail store in Blue Ridge Village. And the rest is as stated by Mrs. Zerby. And we take no exception to the comments that we have to address yet and recognize them as mainly administrative. And if there's any questions the board would have, I'm glad to answer them.
Board members?
Yes, I do. On the one of the waiver requests, let's see, I just had it and just where staff is supporting providing, there is an attachment. Which one? Amanda, help me.
Waiver request 1, where it's added as a note on the plan.
Is it number 1? But there's something there. I had it and I just lost it.
Just be better in 10 seconds.
There's some where it was attached. There's something has to be a report or something in that. It wasn't in the. I lost. I'm sorry. Did you say it was in? You thought it was in number 1?
Waiver request number 1, we ask that they put a note on the plan.
Yes. Where's?
It's, if you look.
I see the bullet under justification. Oh.
It's in the PDF.
Is it in the justification?
Yes. Under waiver request number 1, under we support this waiver request, if a note is added to the plan.
Yeah, that's what I can't find.
It's in the PDF, Gary.
Yeah. That's where I'm looking. But I'm looking for where the. Yeah, no, but I'm reading the same thing. I just can't find it. Somebody help me.
Gary,
It's not in the modification. It's here somewhere.
You have it there.
Yeah, it's right here.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I found it. Okay. Yes. Okay. Sir, first of all, do you have all the documents in front of you that we do? Because I need to ask you some questions that need to be memorialized in our minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And specifically, waiver request number 1. There is a statement there that the staff will support the waiver if a note is added to the plan, which it states, and then it goes on into the detail. Is that acceptable to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The other, number 2 and number 3, I think are fine. Are you in agreement with the administrative items that there are 4, that they have either been completed or will be completed in a timely fashion acceptable to township staff?
Yes, sir.
The 3 general comments, and I'm going to specifically address number 3, which are the 14 comments based on a memo dated May the 27th from Jason Hines of HRG. Have all 14 comments either been completed or will be completed in a timely fashion acceptable to the township staff?
Yes.
Okay. I do have one other question, and I guess it goes to Amanda. Amanda, normally we start with waiver request, and here's a requested modification. We don't have those very often. Again, staff is supporting that modification as well. That's what I read anyway. Okay, is there anything there specific in as much as this is an unusual coming other than a waiver request?
No, you've done a few modifications in the last few months with plans.
And again, to township staff's satisfaction?
Yes.
Okay. You ready for a motion, Mr.? I'm sorry I've taken that much time.
Okay.
At least we've got it resolved
You forgot
in my
to ask
mind.
him. You forgot to ask him.
Mr.
What
Chairman,
item are we on? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the final land development plan for Lot 3, Blue Ridge Village, Plan 2020-06, which includes the 1 requested modification supported by staff, 3 waiver requests, specifically number 1, note that the waiver does require a note to be added to the plan, which states in effect that the township and its agents shall have no obligation or responsibility to repair or replace any items located within the designated easement areas that are affected in the event that the township or its agents need to access and maintain the facilities within the easement area. The 4 administrative comments and the 3 general comments, and specifically number 3, the memo dated May the 27th, 2020 from Jason Hines of HRG, as recommended by staff.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any additional questions or comments or public comment?
Mr. Chrisman forgot to ask him if he had the authority to speak on behalf of the
yes, I
applicant.
did. Thank you. And that's extremely important. That's why I'd go through all of that. You do you have the authority to speak on behalf of the applicant?
I do.
Thank you, Mr. Zumas, because that one is very, very critical. We've been in problems because of that one.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you. Well, we do need to take a vote here. So all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Now,
okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right. That takes us, I believe, to improvement guarantees, of which there are a number of items. Mr. Manager, Mrs. Zerby, anything out of the ordinary with any? They all look pretty, they're all pretty routine.
Yep.
Let's see.
I have a question, Brad. They all looked in order to me. However, there are 3 new ones there. Is anything unique that we need to know about the 3 new ones? Either
I
the
looked to Mrs. Zerby on that one. I'm falling asleep this meeting. I'm not getting any action.
I'm sorry.
They are all, Goose Valley is just a driveway and a garage. Cider Press is for an accessory, a large accessory structure. And Blue Ridge Village, Penn State, you approved that plan a month or so ago.
Okay,
so
I just want, with them being new, I just need the pressure. Okay, thank you. With that, Mr.
Gary, would you make the Shade Brook letters of credit a separate motion, please?
I'm sorry, what? Shadebrook what?
There are 3 letters of credit for the Shade Brook development. If you would make that a separate motion from the others, please.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve for the improvement guarantees Columbia Cottages, which is new, 4402 Goose Valley Road, which is new, 6210 Cider Press, new, Forest Hills Common, a reduction of letter of credit, and the Blue Ridge Village Lot 6 PSU Medical Office is new, be approved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve Shadebrook Phase 3 reduction letter of credit, Shadebrook Phase 1 reduction letter of credit, and Shadebrook Phase 2 reduction letter of credit.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Could we have a roll call vote, please, on that?
Abstain for personal reasons.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. That now takes us to payment of bills for Lower Paxton Township and the Lower Paxton Township Authority. Madam Treasurer.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we pay the bills for Lower Paxton Township and Lower Paxton Township Authority.
So moved. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any additional announcements before we adjourn? With that, our next meeting will be 1 week from tonight. Wow, it'll be July 14th already. 7 o'clock p.m., a workshop meeting here in this room. And with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.